I'm Ebony Brandon. Today is Monday, 8th January 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight nationally, SKNLP leader Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas says his party is readying itself to lead again. Internationally, North and South Korea will hold high-level talks on Tuesday. And in sport, Victoria Azarenka is the latest tennis superstar to withdraw from the Australian Open. We've got the details of these stories, the weather and current update all ahead in the SKN News Now Evening Edition. With just about 2 years left until elections are held again in St. Kitts and Nevis, the SKNLP leader, Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, has declared his organization's readiness to lead once again. During his speech to those gathered at his 18th annual New Year's Gala last Friday, Dr. Douglas indicated that the party's recently established candidate selection committee has completed its work. It can therefore be expected that very shortly, as was promised at the party's December 2017 press conference, that the SKNLP candidates who will contest the 2020 federal elections will soon be announced. The opposition leader said that this is the first of many moves to come which are intended to signal the SKNLP's seriousness about the organization returning St. Kitts and Nevis to the heights it used to be. Adding that there is a fundamental change on the way, Dr. Douglas called upon young people in particular to become involved in the electoral and party processes and by becoming registered voters. He also appealed to members of the business community present to throw their support behind the SKNLP once again, as his organization intends, if returned to office, to recommence projects and institute policies which will ensure their success and survivability. These renewed efforts and commitments on the part of his organization, he continued, are to see to it that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can enjoy the best possible quality of life. The gala at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on Friday was attended by more than 600 persons, comprised of St. Kitts and Nevis citizens from home and abroad, residents, party supporters, members of the business community, and diplomatic corps. This year, the featured speaker was Honorable Lisa Hanna, former Jamaican Minister of Youth and Member of Parliament with the opposition People's National Party. She is also the former 1993 Miss World. In other news, St. Kitts and Nevis is the only Caribbean destination named on the Bloomberg Where to Go in 2018 list. The list is comprised of 22 destinations that Bloomberg has singled out as must-visit locations this year. Bloomberg is a global finance business which provides business and marketing news, data analysis, and video to a global audience. It also features stories from Business Week and Bloomberg News. This news has been welcomed by tourism authorities locally, who say the Federation is more than prepared for a boom in stay-over tourist arrivals, with the addition of the Park Hyatt St. Kitts to Christophe Harbour and other quality hotels dotting the Federation's landscape. Describing the Federation as having been able to pull off a beach escape hat-trick, Bloomberg says St. Kitts and Nevis is an especially compelling destination which is comfortable and convenient. Natural features, including the many beaches and rainforests, distinguishes the Federation as a top luxury destination. It also noted that for travelers from the United States, the Federation is an even more attractive destination as it features non-stop flights on Delta Airlines from Atlanta and New York. This, according to Bloomberg, makes St. Kitts and Nevis more accessible than many of its other Caribbean destination neighbors. Second on the list, the Federation is among some of the most exotic and historically rich destinations in the world, including Brazil, Jordan, Scotland, Cambodia, Fiji, Tunisia, Mexico, and Namibia. The potential of the Kyssfm farm as a model for greater plans for the development of agriculture in the Federation has been highlighted by Al Edwards, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. According to Mr. Edwards, there are a great many plans in place for the year ahead, which are all aimed at ensuring the growth of the sector and safeguarding the Federation's food security. With this in mind, Mr. Edwards says Kyssfm Farm has been able to aid in the development of strategies which can be employed on a larger scale to address a variety of matters, including the business operations related to agriculture, public-private partnerships, water management, and the ongoing issue of the impact of the Federation's massive monkey population on the farming of crops. The Kyssfm Farm, with its 100 acres, has also been uniquely useful to agricultural technicians in plotting out the business of agriculture, specifically in determining the viability of crops and identifying which items of produce are in high demand. This allows them in turn to provide private farm operations with better advice as to how to plan their planting schedules. This, in turn, leads to increased profit for these farmers and a satisfied public. Also, continued Edwards, this ensures greater food security. One of the harsh realities regarding the fragility of the Federation's food security and the impact of climate change on agriculture arose after Dominica was devastated last year by Hurricane Maria. For weeks after the storm, fresh produce in supermarkets was noticeably low, as sea transportation between Dominica and many of its northern neighbors was halted due to the extensive devastation there. Dominica is the leading exporter of produce to many Caribbean islands. P.S. Edwards said for this never to occur again, local private entities are being encouraged to farm high-demand crops, including bananas, pineapples, and plantains, to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis can meet its local demand. He also spoke seriously of the dangers the uncontrolled local monkey population, estimated to be well over 1 million, has on the agricultural sector. According to Edwards, either directly or indirectly, the massive monkey population accounts for a significant decrease in the output of local farmers, many of whom live in fear of the unsalvageable damage troops of monkeys can cause to crops. He added, too, that the fear of the damage monkeys can do to crops has also deterred persons from entering agriculture at all. If the monkey population is either reduced or a way found to control them, Mr. Edwards estimates that local production of specific crops can increase by as much as 50 to 60%. Veteran educator Perlevan Wilkin is urging the police to embrace success personally and to measure their own success beyond professional and financial rewards of the job. Addressing officers in Nevis recently, Mr. Wilkin added that another measure of the police force's collective success must be how well they are able to engage and cooperate with the communities they serve. Wilkin also encouraged the officers gathered at the Charlestown police station to foster habits which will ensure their efforts yield fruit.
The setting of quality personal and career goals will help to positively shape your life for the better. But you have to be prepared to work hard, to sacrifice, to invest time, and to be persistent. All those words, hard, sacrifice, invest time, and to be persistent, are very important to you. In order to obtain the desired results which you need, don't think you're going to get a free ride. Remember, you'll only become as successful and as good as the goals which you have set for yourself. In order to achieve your goals, you must develop the gift of self-reliance. And this would enhance your quality of life. Know what it is to be self-reliant. Don't always depend on people. When you're self-reliant, you will work towards your goals without be feeling pressured or by the unreasonable demands of your peers and your comrades. Life will not get you down because you will be in control of yourself and your thought processes. It is always good to be in control of yourself, if not the environment in which you find yourself in.
He also spoke to the importance of the officers being disciplined, decisive, consistent, and always aiming to be men and women of integrity as important building blocks upon which to advance personally and also build and maintain the confidence of the public.
If you are to experience genuine success in life, you'll have to embrace integrity. Mark that word. Too many persons work hard on their images or how they look, but leave their integrity undone. You must always remember that your image is what you think you are, but your integrity is who you are as a person. Integrity, in my opinion, is the key to trust and acceptance. No matter how you try to lead people, if they don't trust you and they don't accept you, you have a tough time. That is something that the police would have to get up front, getting people to trust them and to accept them. You cannot lead unless people accept you. So, trust and acceptance, both of which are necessary if you are to be a successful police officer. When people have integrity, their words and their deeds match. Sad to say, integrity, which is an important and integral part of the reputation, is a vanishing commodity in today's modern organizations and communities. It's disappearing. Nobody worries about integrity. Integrity is a major factor in our community policing, where the police is expected to create linkages and to successfully work closely with members of the community and public at large. So if you don't have integrity, the community don't think highly of you, forget about community involvement and community policing. These are things you must get right before that.
Mr. Wilkin noted that in order to work, the pursuit of excellence in all aspects of life must become a part of the officer's daily routines.
Take each of your goals and strive to improve on them on a daily basis. These are things you have to work on a daily basis. I want to remind you that success is a journey. It is not a quick fix. The joy is in the doing. So think of success not as a peak to climb, but as a high plateau which you'll be walking for a very long time. I want you as policemen to establish in your life a code of ethics and follow it. Some of us are not governed by any code of ethics. I smiled when the commissioner mentioned this. I said, stay fit and healthy, and be prepared to succeed not only intellectually, physically, socially, but also morally, emotionally, and spiritually.
And finally, in national developments this evening, the track and field season officially began on Sunday with the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Athletic Association, or SKN-AAA's first development meet of the new year. The development meet, staged at the Kim Collins Athletics Stadium, featured track events including the 100-meter, 200-meter, 800-meter, 4x100-meter relays, and field events including javelin and long jump. According to the SKN-AAA, the development meet remains an important part of the association's annual calendar of events, as it provides athletes the opportunity to work on improving their athletic form and technical ability. Sunday's meet signals the start of what is expected to be a highly productive and competitive season, comprised of a total of 13 meets, including the Giant Mold Relay Championships, which take place this month, the Inter-School Championships, Primary School Championships, Carifta Trials, the National Championships, and Kim Collins Invitational. It's also the first meet since the new SKN-AAA executive was elected on 9th December 2017. Still to come this evening's news presentation, today's international developments. North and South Korea will hold their first high-level talks in more than 2 years on Tuesday. The rare gathering is expected to focus on the North's participation in next month's Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang. But while the talks are being greeted enthusiastically by Seoul, many doubt they will lead to a significant curb in tensions between the neighboring governments, who have been in a state of conflict for decades. Florence Louis reports.
This was the last formal face-to-face meeting between North and South Korean officials. in December 2015. The two sides discussed reunions of families separated by the Korean War and economic cooperation.
Let us make a good start and open the great path to reunification.
Despite the initial optimism, the talks broke down. And in the 2 years since, North Korea has fired more than 40 missiles and conducted 3 nuclear tests, severely escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. But at the start of this year, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un unexpectedly proposed dialogue with the South. The focus of the discussions, due to take place on Tuesday at the truce village of Panmunjom, will be on North Korea's participation in the 2008 Winter Olympics in South Korea next month, and on improving inter-Korean ties. The last time North Korean athletes visited the South was for the Asian Games in 2014. Sporting events have been useful in providing diplomatic openings between the two Koreas, but ultimately led nowhere. And some analysts are skeptical of North Korea's true intentions this time.
Because of the effectiveness of the economic sanctions, North Korea suddenly finds the value of South Korea as an alternative source of financial relief and easing the tension on the Korean peninsula.
As punishment for its nuclear weapons testing, North Korea has been subjected to increasingly tighter sanctions, including one that effectively slashes its petrol imports by 90%. But Kim has vowed to continue with his country's nuclear program, calling for the mass production and deployment of nuclear warheads and missiles.
Ultimately, there is no guarantee that North Korea's peace offensive will continue. North Korea can easily make a sudden change of attitude after the end of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games.
South Korean officials are aware of that, and President Moon Jae-in has cautioned against expecting too much from the upcoming talks. But engagement with North Korea remains the best option to easing tensions on the Korean peninsula.
As Britain's 2019 exit from the European Union edges closer, it's looking to carve out a new role for itself on the world stage. Many analysts say it could struggle to retain its influence as other world powers demand greater representation in global bodies like the United Nations. But as Henry Ridgwell reports, the British government insists it is looking to build global alliances beyond Europe.
Punching above its weight, a phrase once used by a British Foreign Secretary to describe his country's role on the world stage, often repeated since. But the punch could be losing power.
Leaving the EU means that the UK could now be seen as a medium-sized economy in an increasingly polarized world where there are massive economic blocs. You have the United States, you have China, you have the EU. In the coming century, you'll also have India, the rise of South America and Africa to compete as well. What will the UK's place be?
McDonough says a measure of Britain's fading clout was its November loss of a judge at the International Court of Justice. After a long battle at the United Nations, London withdrew its candidate. An Indian judge took the place occupied by Britain since the ICJ's inception in 1946.
The way the powers game works now is decidedly different from that of 1945. And we have to question whether the UN Security Council will continue in this form for much longer.
But most analysts say it is unlikely Britain will lose its permanent seat on the UN Security Council anytime soon.
Most of the big powers in the Security Council, including the United States and China, don't want to see any serious reforms to the institution in the foreseeable future.
Britain insists its post-Brexit ambition is to create a global Britain.
On the one hand, the British Foreign Service will be able to invest more resources in UN affairs now that they are going to be less focused on the EU. But on the other hand, without the support of 27 other countries, the British are going to find it much harder to influence debates over humanitarian affairs, development or security through the UN.
A foretaste came in June when many EU countries failed to vote with Britain on a resolution over its claim to the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean. Britain needs to keep Europe on side, argues Gowan.
If the British are seen to be simply cozying up to the Americans, they are going to lose a lot of goodwill from their European partners pretty quickly.
in seeking a new role on the world stage. Analysts say Britain will need to forge new alliances while keeping old friends close and try to weather turmoil back home.
Still to come in this evening's news presentation, sport, the weather and Carib update. And in tennis this evening, two-time champion Victoria Azarenka has withdrawn from the Australian Open because of the ongoing custody battle over her 11-month-old son. Azarenka cannot leave California in the United States with her son Leo until the dispute is resolved. The former world number one, who is 28 years old, has not played since Wimbledon last year. Tournament organizers announced in December she would be given a wild card despite being ranked 201 in the world as a result of her lack of tournament play. The Belarusian joins Andy Murray and Serena Williams in withdrawing from the 2018 opening Grand Slam. Meanwhile, former champions Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic remain in doubt for the tournament. And with that look at sport, we now have a look at this evening's weather forecast. Over St. Kitts and Nevis, the ridge of high pressure over the central Atlantic will strengthen slightly during the next 24 hours. This will cause a fresh breeze to blow over the islands and their coastal waters, resulting in occasional brief showers as well as rough seas, mainly on the Atlantic side of the islands. Marine warnings remain in effect for hazardous seas. Tonight, expect partly cloudy conditions with periods of increased cloudiness accompanied by brief showers. Tomorrow, conditions will be partly sunny with periods of increased cloudiness accompanied by brief showers. Seas are very rough with heights of between 2.4 to 3.1 meters or 8 to 10 feet. Warnings for small craft operators and sea bathers remain in effect against hazardous sea conditions. Winds are east to east-northeast at 14 to 18 miles per hour, with higher spells over coastal waters and elevated terrain, gusting higher in showers. Today's maximum temperature was 28 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. The sea level pressure is 1,015.7 millibars or 29.99 inches. Rainfall recorded for the month of January so far at the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport stands at 30.6 millimeters or 1.20 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:43 a.m. and set tomorrow evening at 5:53 p.m. That look at the weather brings us to the end of this evening's news presentation. We end with a recap of today's top stories. Nationally, SKNLP leader Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas says his party is readying itself to lead again. Internationally, North and South Korea will hold high-level talks on Tuesday. And in sport, Victoria Azarenka is the latest tennis superstar to withdraw from the Australian Open. I've been your presenter this evening, Ebony Brandon. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Carib Update is next, followed by DJ Yardi.